to be talking about the end of history. Come in.
Right.
Oh my God, no!
Can I help you?
He's very good. Very good. Very good. Good.
Okay. We continue. The end of history. The end of history started off life as an essay written by the Japanese-American researcher Francis Fukuyama in 1989. This belief was expanded in his book The End of History and the Last Man, published in 1992. The main view of the book is that Fukuyama, at the end of the Cold War, came to the conclusion that the victory of liberal democracy may constitute the end point of mankind's ideological revolution and the final form of human government, and as such constitute the end of history. Following the collapse of social regimes, this was said by Fukuyama, symbolised by the destruction of the Berlin Wall in 1989. The views of Fukuyama contradict those of Karl Marx, who believed that communism would displace capitalism as the final form of human government. Ian, what's your opinion on the end of history?
I think that Fukuyama was correct, as seen by the fall of the Soviet Union and the collapse of communism in most of the world. This confirms his view that capitalism and liberal democracy is victorious, and that global politics is witnessing how Western liberal democracy is the endpoint of human government.
Very good. Hello.
I do not agree with Mr. Fukuyama. For example, China, the second largest economy in the world, is authoritarian and not a liberal democracy, with its power rising and increasingly challenge the liberal democracy, USA, which is at the same time capitalist.
Well, you see, even the communist states have had to adapt forms of capitalism to be prosperous. This is one of Fukuyama's main arguments, and that this can be seen through China's capitalist Marxist economic structure, and how even now you can have private land, you can have your own businesses, all of this in China. It shows how capitalism is dominating the world, and that we are at an end to an ideological struggle, and that any form of capitalism will always be more prosperous than communism.
On the other hand, multiple democracies have problems and weaknesses all over the world. India, in 2014, had 1/3 of its politicians are criminals. In Russia, democratic elections are not free nor fair, and they're still authoritarian with little government scrutiny and accountability available to the public.
As we've seen, the challenge from the Islamic State and other radical Islamic groups have not had widespread effect because their religion and culture are limited to only Islamic-based states. And as we can see, places such as China, with more economic freedom, more individual freedom has started to come along with it. Even places like Russia, they still have more freedoms than they did in the time of communism. And this proves that liberal democracy is the only form of government that will work in the modern world.
However, radical Islam is the ideological challenge to both the West and governments who are not fully liberal democratic in the Middle East and in Africa. Moreover, there's widespread inequality after the 2008 global financial crisis, with the election of left-wing governments in Greece and the higher popularity of the UK Labour Party in Britain.
You know what? I don't agree with you, and I'm going to prove democracy is superior.
Really?
All in favour of removing Allo from this conversation. Oh! Goodbye.
Please remove yourself from the room.
No.
So Ian, what conclusion can you reach?
Well, to conclude, we must take a step back and be objective about this. Those in favour of the end of history look at boring statistics to back up their argument. They say how there's been a 400% increase in the number of liberal democracies since 1974, and how the world's economy has quadrupled since the 1990s when capitalism became the dominant ideology. However, these figures don't present the whole picture. Fukuyama states that the world has gone as far as it can, and that liberal democracy is the ideological winner. However, this has some big limitations. For example, the glorious system of Western capitalist society is very far from perfect. As the former Allo stated, capitalism brings about great inequality, and that it's crucial to remember that although many countries claim to be capitalist, in terms of political aspects, they are still a long way. And China, although adopting capitalist theories, is still a communist state. Many other countries that have attempted democracy have failed drastically. Did the Arab Spring bring about democratic revolution in the Middle East? No, they did not. Countries such as Egypt that have attempted to have a democratic system have failed, and Egypt itself has fallen back into military rule. And so while people may say we are at the end of our ideological evolution, it is important to understand that we aren't there yet. Plus, the end of history is a stupid name, and I think we can agree that it's not the end of history.
Thank you very much for that conclusion, Ian. Now I'm sure that all of you will understand what we've been talking about, and if not, you can research it yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ian, for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.